Council City of Dalhart to order. First item on our agenda is prayer. If you'd lead us, please, Brian.
Let's pray. Father, we are thankful for your continued blessing and an opportunity to be in a community where you continue to show us favor. Father, as we look at the opportunities before us tonight, we ask that you would give us wisdom in making decisions and using the resources available to our community in a way that would bring honor and glory to you. Father, we continue to ask for protection for our emergency management committee and the people that are overseeing the community and looking to protect people, as well as our police and fire and paramedics, as well as our city workers and those the police officers that keep us safe. Father, thank you again for your faithfulness. In your name we pray. Amen.
Amen. Hey, you wearing stuff? Glasses. You tuck it way underneath. Greg Duggan. Okay, bring Greg Duggan in and put Carl Woods on deck. I will remind council members that we can't act on anything or comment on anything while they're making their comments, right? Okay.
Ready?
Yes, sir. Thank you for coming.
Thank you. Greg
Hi.
Duggan. I'll take about a minute of your time. I just wanted to remind you that you're not just voting on the rec center tonight, but also on receiving 13.3 acres of prime land for future park projects, including the possibility of an indoor soccer field that would be raised privately. I doubt that project will ever happen without this project. Thank you for your consideration. And I might just give a thought to prior testimony. A couple of guys had mentioned that no sales tax would be collected on this. And it makes so sense to me to send 8.25% to the state and get 2% back. The city's exempt from that, and that would add 6.25% to the project based on the supplies that were used. Anyway, short and sweet, I'd just like you to consider the entire overall project, the land and future projects, and what else could be used as far as ball fields and things in the future if you were able to keep this land. Thank you.
Thank you. Mr. Woods.
Thank you.
Chris Bell.
I'm borrowing myself here a minute again. I brought my city charter with me. I thank you for letting me speak this evening. My name is Carl Woods. I gave a letter this morning to James, and I'm guessing you all probably have a copy of it. I'll just summarize that letter. As I wrote in the letter, I'm a retired Texas public school teacher, and I'm here really for educational purposes right now concerning the proposed recreation center. My presentation involves Texas law and the charter for the city of Dalhart. My presentation should not be interpreted as a threat of a voter-initiated petition drive. I don't want you to think like that. If you have a copy of the charter, you can go to page 21, section 107. It says, 107 reads, recall general. Any member of the city council may be removed by recall. Section 108 reads, recall procedures. Any elector, that is a registered voter and resident of Dalhart, may file with the city secretary an affidavit containing the names of the council members whose removal is sought. Section 109 reads, recall petitions. The petition shall contain the signatures of at least 500 registered voters and residents of the city of Dalhart. I called the election office, there are about 4,000 to 5,000 registered voters who live in Dalhart. There's only about 6,000 in the two counties. So only about 10% of the registered voters would be needed to get 500 signatures. Section 110 reads, recall elections. If the recalled council members do not resign within 5 days, the city council shall then order and fix the date for the election. Now, I'm not making this up, it's right here. Section 12 says, if the majority of the votes are cast for the recall, those city council members shall be deemed removed from office and the vacancy shall be filled by the city council. So if somebody, 500 votes are cast, that's it. A district judge may order a recall if the city council doesn't. I'm almost finished. This leads me to two questions. Has there ever been a successful City of Dalhart voter petition drive that resulted in a citywide election? Well, yes, there was. On May 9th, 1995, the Dalhart Texan reports that there was an election involving North Texas Gas and their franchise, and the vote was 762 votes for, so it passed. I'm almost done. Also, I was part of a committee that raised with George Chambers, Gary Haskell, Mike Mallory, and Warren Slaughter, and we raised 540 signatures to roll back the franchise tax on
Your time's up.
Okay, thank you. I just want you to know that there are a lot of things involved.
Thank you.
Thank you, Carl. We appreciate all your research.
You bet, thank you.
Chris? Yes, sir. And then Curtis Thomas is on deck.
Good evening, council. My name is Chris Bell. I'm here tonight. Once again, thank you for your service, your time, these tough decisions that you make, the votes you make. It's a vote. It's not cutting friendship. It's not cutting our community. You're doing what's best based on the information you have in front of you. You make that vote and you be proud of it. Once the votes are cast, we're still friends. We're still a community. That's what we need to focus on. Thank y'all.
Chris, thank you very much.
Take a break for the next minute.
You are, sir.
Good evening, council. Thank you for the opportunity to speak in front of you again today. More than anything, I want to reiterate how much I appreciate the position that you serve. I appreciate the tough decisions that you have been forced to make. I stand here again tonight to implore upon you to stand by your decision. I firmly believe that the decision that you made to not fund the $750,000 request was the right decision. To my understanding, that the motion that the city council passed was to accept the facility once it was built. Again, I take serious issue with, now that this project has morphed, that now the city is going to, in essence, build it, pay for it, and then be reimbursed. And I'm not 100% sure, that that's legal. I'm not. And I guess my point would be, if the city of Dalhart is obviously okay with paying architectural fees up to this point on this facility, what's the harm in paying legal fees to be sure that what you're about to do is legal? Was the land deal legal? Is reimbursing a private citizen so that they can in turn, in essence, circumvent sales tax, is that legal? Are these things legal? That's my question. And before you take another step forward, I would ask you to ask yourself those questions and find out whether or not they deserve to be answered. Thank you all.
Curtis, thank you very much, sir. Bonnie? Bonnie. Hi, Bonnie. I thought that said Ronnie Brown. We were trying to figure out who you were. Bonnie. Hi, Bonnie. Yes, ma'am.
My name is Bonnie Brown. I want to thank you all for taking my comments tonight. I'm reading, as you can see. I'm opposed to the approval of up to $750,000 in EDC funds being allocated to the recreation center. I truly believe EDC money can be far more beneficial when it's used to promote business in our city, as well as for the upkeep and maintenance of recreational areas Dalhart already has, which we have some fine ones. I have heard and read in the paper the statement that the EDC fund is regenerated at a rate of $600,000 on average per year. However, I think it's very prudent for us to consider our country, state, and city has been in virtual shutdown due to COVID, and is even now struggling to get back on its feet. So I would expect that regeneration may not be quite as healthy as it was in the past for a while. The Rawls gift has already been accepted and committed to, with the long-term maintenance becoming the responsibility of the city once it's completed. If I understand it correctly, the facility doesn't bring anything new to the table that is not already available in town, other than the climbing wall I have heard about. Therefore, it won't promote outside trade into Dalhart. There are still tables and chairs to be bought for meeting rooms, safety equipment, and staff for the climbing wall. And I understand there is no kitchen facility available, and the upstairs will just be an empty space for the time being. That leads me to believe that we are further committing on down the road to having to complete this thing or bring more to it. This isn't a vendetta against the Rawls or anybody else. I simply think it hasn't been thought out real well. I have talked to many people over the past 2 weeks about this and have been surprised they were not any more aware than I was what the building would have. I blame no one but myself for not finding out earlier. So that is a moot point since it's been accepted. But an additional $750,000 in funding by the city does not make sense to me. And again, I understand the term is up to $750,000. I'm an old banker, as most of you know, and I have rarely seen a time when funds have been earmarked that it hadn't all been used. And finally, I have a question. Since all this started, I have wondered, since the initial vote to deny the funding was made, had the vote been 4-3 in favor of the EDC funds being made available, would we be revisiting this issue again tonight? Thank you all very much for your time.
Thank you, Bonnie.
Carol Latham.
Mr. Meyer? Yes, sir.
Thanks again, guys, for letting me come. I think everybody knows my position. I'm not in favor. I'm in favor of the project. I'm just not in favor of the funding or the way it was handled. Well, I do have some concerns. I've been told since the beginning on this that it was costing the city no money. In fact, it was emphatically said zero. So I guess I would question, I know there's work been done out there, there's about 75 trees been knocked down. Are we keeping a ledger on men and equipment? Are we gonna be reimbursed for this? Where are we at? I'm really puzzled about that. I just am a little bit unclear as the same as the speaker before me as to why this is coming back when everybody had time the first time. They could have spoke. Everybody had their ample opportunity the first go around to say yes, no. Same way with the vote. If it gets voted for, are we going to come back and vote again to try to vote it down? That's my deal. I think it's over. It's done. Everybody spoke their piece, and it should be put to bed. So,
Well said.
thank you.
Thank you, sir.
Susan Britley.
Thank you.
Can I go ahead?
Yes, ma'am, please.
First of all, I want to make it clear that I'm not here tonight choosing sides. And I'm sorry, I get really nervous, but I've just been witnessing some things going on in our community that are causing great concern. I attended the city council meeting in May when the request for the $750,000 was voted down. At that meeting, I felt like the questions asked by the council members were justified and professional. I found the council was operating as an elected group should. It was the EDC that requested the vote be on the agenda. I didn't feel like it was a forced vote that evening. Both sides were discussed, a motion was made, and a vote was recorded. I assumed all interested parties would have thorough discussions later and find the appropriate solution for this great opportunity for our community. Honestly, I was shocked to see the exact same agenda item 2 months later. Are you setting a precedent for our community to question and revote and request a revote on every action taken by this council? On another note, I was looking back at the minutes from the 3 meetings that EDC held this year. Every single item was tabled that involved a funding request, from the hospital, Larson Aviation, resurfacing the tennis courts. The only 2 items that a motion was carried on there, according to their minutes that were made public, involved the $200,000 a year for the rec center and $750,000. This is interesting to me. Bottom line, I just have a concern that we are not setting an example for our citizens and how our democracy should work. Like my dad always taught me, if I tell you no, then you go choose to ask your mom, you're grounded. So, thank you.
Thank you. Susan?
Eileen.
For those of you who don't know me, my name is Susie Britling. And I want to say to the Rawls how much I appreciate their generosity. If I'm ever blessed with wealth, I hope that I can be as generous and as they have been to Dalhart. I also want to thank you all for your service to the community. There's several issues that I have that I'm concerned about. One, I taught leadership to 4-H kids for almost 40 years. And I think that this is one of the worst examples of parliamentary procedures to continue to vote on the same issue over and over. I don't know, I'm sure it's legal, but I think it's per parliamentary procedure. I think from the get-go, there was probably a lack of transparency about the operation of the center. And because of that lack of transparency at the onset, it has continued on through the whole process. My second issue is with the EDC. In the newspaper, Mr. Rawl was quoted as saying that citizens should bring their ideas to the EDC. Bring it was what was quoted in the paper. For an insider, this is a great statement. However, to the average citizen of Dalhart, this group is totally unapproachable. I have written several grants for projects throughout the community, and I think I would have a better chance of receiving a grant from a source outside of Dalhart than I would from this local group. One, I have 2 projects that I'm working on right now. One is a personal project where we are investing over $500,000 to restore the old Triangle grocery store. The amount that we are investing only gets the building functional, but does not cover any extras such as floor covering, concrete entrances, signage, or paving for customers to park. When we asked several city leaders about the possibility of approaching the EDC, because it is on Highway 87, we believe we will collect more tax money. Their answer was, don't waste your time unless one of the members has a personal interest they won't invest. And then I have an issue with a couple of city officials on projects that I've offered to to help with. I'm not going to get into that tonight. But I do want to say, as a local business owner, I am a one-bit player, and I understand that. This year, I collected and paid over $15,000 worth of sales tax to the city and to the state. That figure is approximately $15,000 more than 3 of the people who sit on the EDC have collected. I've lived in Dalhart for 43 years. I met my husband here. We worship here. We raised our family here. And now we have 5 grandsons growing up here. The bright spot in all of this is the time to justify some changes that need to be made, primarily with transparency, generating enthusiasm for small things in the community. I hope as the decision makers for our city, you will see the opportunity that this situation has unfolded. Dalhart will be a better place for your leadership.
Thank you.
Eileen.
Eileen?
Kevin Cadell.
Hello, once again, I don't have a lot to say other than I once again just want to reiterate how important we think the rec center is going to be. I had a college student in my office today saying, please, please, please figure out how to talk them in to considering that he is a basketball player. And so that's something that's pretty important. He said he just can't get on to other courts, he and his friends. I see him out at the one that's out by the park that's open, which is great when the weather's great. He said it's just too hot most of the time. So his plea was figure out a way that we can work together to get this built. And so knowing what the EDC is supposed to fund, this fits squarely into the requirements of what the EDC money is for. So once again, I want to say thank you to all of you. We know that this is not easy. We appreciate you and thanks for your time.
Thank you very much. Kevin?
Good evening. I really didn't prepare a speech last time, but thank you, everybody, for being in the positions you are. I know exactly what it feels like. I told Sherry earlier last week or a couple of weeks ago that I know I've been there. Sometimes you just don't sleep at night when you got things that you got to think about and consider. But I just want to ask you again to reconsider this proposal. It's a great opportunity for our city and for the future of the town. EDC dollars, as you well know, are now well versed in, are collected by sales tax, and it will not affect property taxes. And the future of this facility, I think, is endless. I think that once this facility is in the city's hands, the city can do whatever they want to with it. The acreage that's given to the city will provide for softball parks, soccer fields, and that sort of thing. And I would venture to say that if this project isn't allowed to go forward, that some of those things may not ever happen. Those will cost tax dollars if the city decides to do it later on. And EDC money can be used, obviously, to support it and to maintain it. I sit on the EDC, and I'll have to say that we don't get many projects. We don't get, as some have said, ideas brought to us like you would think. And when we do get ideas, they either fit the criteria or they don't. We had recently a request from the hospital for some funding for a nursing home wing, and it did not meet the qualifications, so we could not move forward on it. We can help buy equipment for them and that sort of thing, but the project that they brought to us was not authorized or eligible for EDC dollars. So the people that are on that committee look at everything that comes before, and we're all looking for viable projects that money can be used for, and this is one of them. If it's not a viable project, doesn't meet the government rules and regulations, then we have to pass on it. So it's not like we're just turning people down because it's not a project that we want to do or can't do. Anyway, I would encourage you to think about reconsidering the funding from EDC, the request for that funding to complete this project. It's a once in a lifetime opportunity. We're not going to have this chance again down the road. So leave it in your hands, and thank you very much for your time and service.
Kevin, thank you very much.
Sarah Walton.
Michaela?
First, I would like to say thank you to our city council for all that you do. And second, I would like to thank Jean and Louise Rawls for their generosity to our community. I am here to express my opinion that you should once again vote to decline the proposed EDC funding of up to $750,000. It is my understanding that there is not yet a plan on how this will run once built. How much will yearly operations cost, and how will those be paid for? Will any property taxes have to be raised in the future to keep this open? Are we going to use more EDC funding, or will there be future donations? As a tax-paying citizen, this question is frustrating. If I were wanting to open a business and needed a loan for $750,000, the bank would require me to provide a solid business plan and an estimated profit and loss. They would not just give me the money because it's a good idea and good for our community. Second, according to the EDC minutes, the EDC board also approved up to $200,000 in funding for each year. In my opinion, EDC funds should be used to attract new businesses, new people, and enhance the quality of life. As of right now, the rec center does not enhance the quality of life for all members of our community because it's just 2 basketball courts, a rock wall, and multi-purpose rooms. But by only providing these things, you skip the baby boomers, Gen Y, millennials, and even possibly Gen Z. Many complaints are that we can't get workers to move here because there's nothing to do here. I believe that improving the quality of life for all generations could do this. Once again, I hope you take my opinions into consideration while voting. I would also like to, again, say thank you to Mr. Raw, and I hope he will still give his very generous gift of $5 million to build the rec center. However, I do not think any EDC funding should be used.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Sarah Walton.
Hello.
Jean.
I was not expecting to speak tonight, but kind of been disappointed. I am a millennial. I have tried my entire life to get out of Dalhart because frankly, there's nothing to do. Anything that there is to do, it's usually getting you in trouble. And a lot of my generation has gotten in trouble with Dalhart. This is a way to build a community from the base up. I've spent 8 months in a country that never had a single private citizen give so much willingly without kickbacks or something underneath the table. And the fact that they want to invest in our community is awesome. And the way that we've been handling this is disappointing. And I wish Dalhart was the city that I wanted to stay in. And it's frustrating to not want to stay here because I don't feel like our voices are heard. And are they? How many millennials do you know that are still here? They move off to big cities. They go off to college, meet someone and move anywhere else but Dalhart. Since I get here, I've been trying to see how I can help this community. I'm working with Safe Place. I want to bring them back to Dalhart. But what's in Dalhart? What community sport do we actually have? What representation do we have? So I would very much like this to go forward because it's a sign that we have support from our community. It's an amazing blessing and we're looking the gift horse in the mouth. You guys have to pay 13% of $5 million. You don't have to pay the $5 million. And that's what you guys, your job is here for, to promote the community. And this is what that is. It's promoting the community without any question. It's a really small price to pay. I'm a millennial, yes. I don't have much experience, but I have a business degree that says 13% of $5 million. That's nothing. $5 million being given to our community. That's extraordinary. And if you're not gonna accept that, I'm not sure I actually want to be here anymore. It's ridiculous. That's what I have to say.
Thank you very much. James, you and Louise both gonna speak or just one of you? Whatever it takes.
She'll cry.
Okay,
No, I might have a word.
okay.
This is it.
Yes, sir.
Either we build a rec center after this meeting tonight, or we don't. There are no ifs, ands, buts. Whether we get 750, we get nothing, I'm done.
Okay.
I just heard a woman say, they're doing a private thing. You ought to say, use some of that money for her. This thing is for 8,000 people around here. For 50 years. I just cannot understand any thought that the rules specifically say it's for stuff like this. We've looked, and I heard 2 or 3 people, I was listening out there on the phone, say, you know, over the years, they've asked for this, and AEDC's turned them down. We have not turned down anything that we thought was worthwhile or legal when they came to us. We got 8 pretty sharp people on that board. What?
The rules mandated by the state for the EDC.
Yes, as I hope most of you know, if you don't, you shouldn't be sitting on the council, that there's certain things you use for. I heard somebody say the other night, we need to fix the streets more and all. It cannot be used for the streets. There's certain things it can be used for. I was gonna go 6 million or 7 million, whatever it took to do this thing. And then ADC said, hey, we got a lot of money. Let us put a little skin in the game on this thing. I said, fine, that's what I'll do. Made my mind. That's what I'm gonna do. If the city didn't want to put a little skin in the game, I'm not gonna do it. Just make up your mind. I was listening on the phone out there to some of what I think are absolutely stupid comments with people. Everybody's got their own opinion, I realize that. They talk about tax and stuff, they don't know what they're talking about. The thing had been handled right, we would have come up with money ourselves. I'm not gonna do it now. I'm gonna give the $5 million and we'll see what happens after that. Thank you.
Jane, thank you. Ms. Rawls, you have any comment?
Oh, no.
Okay. All right.
Well, I'm just surprised at, we didn't ask for this second vote. I don't think the council, someone came up with that. We didn't personally ask for you to vote again. Someone brought that up. Well, I understand their feeling about that. You know, if somebody says no, you know, but there are so many misconceptions about how the EDC money should be used. I'm sorry we had to ask for it. I'd love to spend that money entirely from us, but you know, there's a limit to that. And unless you want to scale it down to have nothing, we could scale it back down and what do you have? It isn't worth it. I'm kind of tired of the whole thing.
Okay.
From the get-go, when we announced it, there'd been negativity about it. And thank you.
Ms. Rawls, thank you very much. Jane, thank you. Okay, that's, we have anyone else? Okay. So that's the end of the public comments. The first thing on our regular agenda is to consider and install council member to replace Troy Ferguson. Who's our committee?
Well, I'm on the committee. Tim's on the committee.
Who would like
John's on
to
the committee.
speak?
We actually never elected a chairman, but I guess I'll speak.
Okay.
And so we decided that we would look at maybe somebody that was really involved on the north side of Dalhart.
Okay.
And man, somebody jumped right off the page. He did everything. He comes to planning, zoning. He comes to adjustments. He comes to city council. If he misses, something's wrong. So anyhow, we would present to you Dwayne Smith. We think that he's very, very involved, and we all visited with him, and we just feel like would be a great asset to the city council.
Dwayne, you okay with this?
Yes, sir.
Okay. Do I have a motion?
I make a motion, we accept the nomination of whatever your committee's called.
Nominating committee, I guess.
For Dwayne Smith.
For Dwayne Smith.
Second?
Second.
Nomination committee has recommended Dwayne Smith. I have a motion and a second to approve his nomination and make him a member of the city council, city of Dalhart. All in favor?
Aye.
Is anyone opposed? I heard that.
Dwayne,
Okay. There you go. We now have a new council member.
Now you can oppose.
Congratulations.
Thank you. Appreciate the
Now,
opportunity.
you want to give him his oath of office, and then luckily you were able to hear most of the argument on both sides. Tonight, pretty surmised everybody's feelings. So after we get through with this, that's the next item on the vote. Okay?
We want to have his wife come up?
Oh, I think so.
She said no.
She said no. Okay.
Oh, my.
That's a big no.
You probably know this better than I do.
We're gonna spread out a little bit. Are you gonna take a picture? Let's use this and put it between the flags.
So read it aloud, raise your right hand. If you want to go to the middle over there.
Is that where you want me or where you
Yeah.
want it?
Yeah, that would
Okay.
be better for pictures. And then that second one, same thing.
I, Dwayne Smith, do solemnly swear that I have not directly or indirectly paid, offered, promised to pay, contributed, or promised to contribute any money or thing of value, or promised any public office or any employment with the giving or withholding of a vote at the election at which I was elected, or as a reward to secure my appointment or my confirmation, whichever the case may be, so help me God. You start there. I, Dwayne Smith, do solemnly swear that I will faithfully execute the duties of the office as a police officer.
All right.
Didn't know that.
I didn't sign up for that. I will, to the best of my abilities, preserve, protect, and defend the Constitution and the laws of the United States and of this state, so help me God.
We got two for.
So you can carry a gun too. That'll do.
I get to pack that. I still got my one.
I will. Yeah, I'm gonna get this.
I will do that.
The next item on the agenda is to reconsider recommendation from the Economic Development Corporation to fund the up to $750,000 for proposed recreation center. I want to clear two things up real quick. It was my understanding, we were attempting to make sure that the recommendation from the EDC was, the biggest complaint everybody has had is we're not, I don't know what the correct term is, more transparent about how we do things. And I felt like that if we asked the EDC to clarify what their request was, and we had a chance to discuss it a little bit more, that we could either say yes or no as a, and be a little bit better informed than we were the first time. Plus, there was an outcrying of people on both sides, and I felt like we really needed to revisit this after we had a lot of public opinions to it. This wasn't a, I don't like that vote, I want it changed. This was a, we all need to be on the same page and understand everything we're talking about ahead of time. Not just have one piece of the puzzle, but have the whole puzzle in front of us, okay? So I and a couple of the council members requested that we put this back on the agenda. I don't think the vote changes much, if any, but I do think that all of us are more aware of the workings of it and the transparency of how we're doing it. And that the vote tonight is pretty straightforward. You either think it's worth doing or you don't. There's not a, I like this vote or I don't want that vote. This is a yes or no vote as to whether or not we should try to do this. It's worth trying to do, or it's not worth trying to do, okay? Not, we wish he'd do this or that, because he said he's done, all right? So tonight's vote is more like that than anything else. We need to discuss this a little more, council. Do we need to have a motion on the table to discuss? Or can we just discuss this before we put a motion on the table?
Well, I think you can discuss it.
Okay, so let's start. John? Your feelings on this and why you voted the way you did, and do you want to vote the same way now?
The reason I voted no on this, I don't see it feasible spending $750,000 and then $200,000 a year afterwards for 2 years. Eventually, how will it be funded? Is the city gonna have to step in and supplement all the funding? Are we gonna have to raise taxes? Can we fund it in the future, 5 years from now? Is it gonna be self-fundable? Is the funding gonna come in through the recreation center, however they're gonna fund it,
right,
that the city doesn't have to supplement? I haven't seen any plans that says it will, that in the future, after the 2 years, how will it be funded then? Are we gonna have to, in the future, raise taxes to fund it or not? And for that reason, I just cannot support it.
Okay.
Because I'm not sure.
May I answer those questions? Can I tell you what we think, what I think? And again, I'm not the pro on this. I think that it was up to $200,000 a year, and that was done to allay the concerns of citizens, including myself. Because you can get a really cool jewel, but if you can't keep it polished, it's not worth having, right? So those funds up to $200,000 a year for so long was based on an estimate from a company that manages big facilities, okay? After visiting with council, visiting with the city manager and others, there's bound to be other ways we can find to fund this, okay? And that those ways are, will not use property tax. We, as a council, won't have to raise taxes to help pay the bill on this, okay? Probably ever. As long as we can get EDC money to help fund the management of it somehow, or some other funding method. If nothing else, we hire someone who is a specialist in recreation facilities, and we figure out a way to work with the counties like we do the lake, work with EDC in the counties to fix it so that we aren't having to increase our salary base here in such a way that it starts taking away from the tax base that we already have. Everyone on this council, y'all haven't had to deal with the budget yet, but we're getting ready to, knows that we only have this much money and this many employees, and we can barely take care of them. We don't have room to do more, okay? Within our budget. I think there's other ways to do it. I think there's other ways to maintain it using EDC funds, grant funds, sporting events, things like that. But we don't know. Every year, we've learned more about how to do things. We've learned more about how to be more frugal with some of our funds and wiser with how we do things. And the city council has total control over that budget. If we decide we can't run it and we can't afford it, then we'll just have to lock it for a while till we find a way to run it and afford it. But I don't think that, in my opinion, means we should not do it, okay? Now, as far as the 750, that's a backstop, and we don't know how much he's gonna need. But it guarantees him that his 5 million is all that's going in. And if he needs more than that, for whatever reason, to get it completed, the EDC is willing to put up a certain amount. And we can cut it to that and leave it at that. One of the meetings that we had today, they were concerned that is it a money pit? When do we turn the clock off? When do we shut it down? And we can, in this recommendation, say up to and no more than, and we get to see every bid before it's approved. So I hope you understand that except for the taxpayer money, which is all of us that has put into the EDC funds because we all buy things, this is not a property tax. And I think as a council, we can keep it from ever being a property tax. Now, that doesn't mean that the council behind us someday doesn't see a reason to do something different, but us as council members can do our best to keep that from happening. Okay? And again, I'm just trying to, like the comment about the sales tax issue and stuff. I just want us to understand both sides of that. Okay?
Appreciate it.
Okay, Dwayne?
You want me to do this now? Okay.
What? You're on council member.
Okay. The things that I've been looking at in relationship to it is in the initial presentation of it, it was a gift. I understood as a gift of a recreational center. Then things changed. I do not know what the terminology is now, that I am donating $5 million up to $5 million, whatever, to build that. Right. So that puts it in a whole different playing field of what is going on. And so as you look at that, and that goes down to the requirements the city has to supply in funds wise. Now, it's my understanding the city is already supplying funds by the infrastructure and things like that. So, you're going up and we come up with this. Well, if it's a gift in the originality of a $5 million building, build a $5 million building.
Okay.
And now the things that we're talking about here and the enjoyment, it has been in the studies that nobody has looked, to my knowledge, at the demographics and the availability of use of this structure and how many people have to use it to justify to make where it would be self-supporting. Okay. And the fee structure and all that, it goes around like that it is. There is no plan for that. And how the feasibility, there has not been a feasibility study, what it would take to be self-supporting. So having said all of that, then it comes back to what you said there. When is it? It's changing that we have requests for funds. We're turning around and we've got another request for funds to operate the thing. As you said, when does the valves turn off? What is the commitment of city funds? Now, and the terminology that they're using in relationship to concern about increase of property taxes, which is people I'm talking to, is sales tax that belongs to the people. It's just like any other tax. And so it should be for the total enrichment. And me being on the north side, and I'm going to say it a different way because north side goes way down low. In my ward now, that doing the research on recreational centers, the distance from the recreational center has a effect upon participation of the center. And when the size goes down, and I don't know what size the original size was, but when you start containing it down, you take activities away from it, and that draws it down. That if you're down to a certain part, you're only going to go a mile. I want to know how the people on Ward 1 and their children can benefit from this. And a lot of the things of it is that we do not have a mass transit system for these individuals to get there. And if you look out on the scenario that's going around, there's usually one car and it's gone.
Okay. Let me handle that one by giving you Rusty, who is also on the north side, right? And has already addressed that. So
yes, sir.
Can you speak to that, sir?
Yes, sir. I actually made some phone calls today for sure to make sure and talked to Lylene Springer, who is our transportation director for Panhandle Community Services. And she said that they would work out a transportation system for us so that we could get the kids from the north side. Well, and technically it's all going to be kind of over here by the schools, so they could come from the school to the recreational center, and then they would get them back to the homes. So we actually have kind of looked at addressing that issue. And then there's also the possibility that we could get some buses that would actually be on the facility to keep there and use for this facility. And one of the things we looked at was the possibility, if we got a bus, to get one with a lift so that senior citizens could also, because my thing is I want the kids to come, but I'd also like to see something set up for our senior citizens so that they would be able to be transported. And so if we had one with a lift, that would be very beneficial. And most of Panhandle Community Services, almost all of our vehicles are transportable with lifts. So that's one, maybe that addresses that issue.
Okay, I'll close on this right here. It is, my biggest concern is the financial stability of the organization. And with no, some way to absolutely guarantee the people that talk to me and other people, and I'm surprised they talk to me all the time, that, we might be looking, and it might be a tax increase, and it might be a larger levy on the sales tax or something like that. But, where we don't have to do that. And that's the biggest concern that people are doing, is that with everything going on, total concern, because there is not a plan, business plan, structure plan, anything like that.
A management plan.
Management scenario whatsoever, that we know what's going on, and if that scenario is going to have activities. And one of the things, so we got 2 basketball courts and that sort of thing. Basically, the largest moneymaker participation number is not a basketball court. It is more of a gymnasium of help, but we've got these other scenarios. And then I'm gonna be quiet.
No, you're fine.
Yeah.
No, you're not. The whole idea is that we discuss all of these options and that we all understand, because all of us are going to vote on this. So.
If it's going to be a recreational center, it's a plan, if that's the terminology that they're used. If it's going to be inclusive of a wellness center, that's a whole different ballgame. And a wellness center will contribute to all ages, period. Not just, and then we have to look at the cost when they're saying $200,000. There's nothing stating about the maintenance, the janitorial services, and all of these things that go along, the operating cost of it. And I have not seen anywhere that a recreational fitness center of this type can operate for $200,000 a year. Even with it, and now we've got this other thing about, scholarships, blah, blah, blah. That's in the air.
Yeah.
It's not a guarantee. We need to talk about guaranteed plan of how we'll approach it. And that's basically it.
And fair. I think that's very fair. I think the $200,000 came from an estimate given to us from running the place in Elk City. And that included maintenance, and it included management, and it includes scheduling, and it included their management fee, right? But it was done by a company that is Kids Inc. That was their estimate. Since then, we've decided Kids Inc. is not a viable option for Dalhart, Texas. But Kids Inc., it's what they do. And so they gave us told us what they did with Elk City, which is comparable maybe, although it's awfully much, I think, nicer. Have anybody gone to see it?
It's pretty nice.
It's really, really nice. But I think my question is it worth doing? Even we have a business plan, but I believe we can make a business plan. Now that we're all on the same page, if we proceed with this, then we make a business plan. We do these things. We've kind of said, well, how are we going to, first of all, how are we going to afford it? And then EDC said, here's what we think. And now the council is going to have to figure out how are we going to afford it. Is it worth saying, Gene, finish it, and we'll take the keys and we'll figure out how. We will figure out how, and we will do it without taxpayer dollars. We have looked at Brent looked into some things that some other cities have done some hybrid programs where we can take an employee and use them at 2 different things at once. Part of that funding then can come from the EDC without a problem, no questions asked, because it's part of the tourism thing. I think if we just put our brains together and ask around, because we can't be the only city, we may be the only city that's been offered a $5 million building for free, but we're not the only city that struggles with figuring out how to fund certain projects. And I think, like I said, I think the problem is, and the fact is that that we have to decide tonight before we can put these business plans together, that concerns about how it was been handled and approached is kind of water under the bridge. It's either tonight, do we want it? Is it worth working on or not? Okay. But I totally agree with what you're saying.
I've got one thing that I wanted to bring up.
Okay.
In relationship to the outside organizational groups, and they're going to be all combined and all of that. And the discontent of the population of Dalhart when they start stepping on each other's toes on the outside sports. And they said it's something we want to be looking at in the
Yes,
future.
yeah.
And the funding.
Did you come to that
where the
meeting?
funding goes with that.
Yeah. Did you come to the meeting when we had all of the different
Yes, sir.
sports people here? And you saw a complete cohesive group? Because the enemy of my enemy, you know, okay? So that's how we found out that Kids Inc. is not a viable option for Dalhart, Texas, right? But there are other companies, other management facilities that we might could find. There may be someone that we could hire that could do it. I don't know, but I don't know. I think it's a legitimate concern, and I hate that we can't take all of these concerns and put them out there and spend a month or 2 or 3 solving them, coming up with a legitimate business plan, coming up with a way to prove we aren't going to have to increase taxes. But tonight it's kind of, is it worth working on or not? And if it's worth working on, we go ahead and allow the EDC to fund up to 750 with whatever stipulations we need on it. If it's not worth working on, then we tell Gene, thank you very much. We appreciate it, but it's not something that we feel like as a council is needed in Dalhart, Texas. Okay?
Thank you.
And I mean, I think that's kind of in a nutshell where we're at, because we are on this timeline, and you heard exactly what the gentleman said. Okay? Now, I don't have a problem. We can put a committee together and figure out how we're going to do it and come up with a business plan. We have to approve every single bid that comes in anyway, so we'll have plenty of time.
It was a $5 million gift.
Okay.
That's what was said. That's what was voted on.
Okay.
That's what we agreed to have it built with. That's why we said yes. When it comes down to asking for more, which yes is what it was, it's asking for $750,000. It was tax money. I voted no the last time because it's tax money. Build it and give it to us. We will survive it. Do I ever see it making money? No. Do I see it as a big benefit of having a $5 million 2 basketball goals out there? Court? No. Is it going to cost every kid to use it? Yes. We can't even have a grocery or a clothing store in this town, but we're going to build a recreation center. You want to keep people in Dalhart. Let's put some place where they can go buy some clothes. Let's get, somehow we use our economic development, whatever it takes to go find that, and Chamber of Commerce bring some business in here. And we don't have to drive to another town to get stuff. I'm still a no.
Okay. And I respect that, and well put. To me, that's a chicken or egg thing. You know, we had the same argument about the Coliseum when it was done, and it turned out to be really cool. And I had to eat a lot of crow because I was so against it. I thought we were putting a roof and spending a lot of money on a barn. But it's used a lot, and it brings a lot of people together and does a lot of things, and it has added to the community. I think this can do the same thing, but you're exactly right. It started out as a promise for $5 million, and it has morphed into something else. And I respect what you're saying. Totally understand. I think it's too bad that we can't take it and run with it, because I think it is something we could take and run with, and I think we can make it into whatever we want to make it once we get the key. But
save your time. I'm done. I'm standing right here, officer. They just don't need to spend any more of their time. I'm done. All you guys can suffer around through the town and be like all the other towns around here that have nothing.
And Gene, we have not voted on this yet.
You heard what I said.
Yes, sir. Okay. No, I don't think so. I don't know. Council, it's on the agenda. Can we table it? Or do we just drop it after his comment?
That's your decision as far as
I
you
know.
want to do, but based on what he said, I don't know that it's going to do any good not to do
We
anything.
can leave it on the table as long as we want. Can I
I
ask
make a
for-
motion that we would table this, this recommendation from the EDC.
Have a second?
A second.
Motion made and seconded to table.
I don't even get to.
Oh, we can all make our comments, but he's already said. no.
I understand that, but,
We're done. He's pulled his.
and I understand that, but, I did have comments to
Okay.
say for
Well, then
the.
I'm sorry. Yes,
Yeah,
it's on the table, but we haven't
We
haven't
can
voted
still
yet.
make motions. We can still have
Let's
discussion.
still have
Might-
discussion.
Okay, okay,
Absolutely.
so.
But if we're gonna do that, let's do it. You have anything to say?
I didn't get to vote last time, so.
Okay.
I'll just
Do you have
keep my
anything to
mouth
say?
shut right now.
I don't think that my opinion is a surprise to anybody. I have been in Dalhart for 13 years. I've seen and I've studied Dalhart extensively going back 100 years. And this is a pivotal moment in our community. Our community has continued over the last 100 years to be progressive and accept change and to seek out these opportunities. And I'm disappointed if we miss this opportunity. This could be as big as the prison or the airport or the feedlots or Hillmar coming into our community. And for us to miss this is a disappointment. I didn't prime my daughter to come in here and say what she said, but she represents teachers that come into our community because she's of their same age. And she's telling us exactly what they're thinking. They're disappointed that we would miss out on an opportunity, that we would miss out on a gift. Every gift costs something. If we don't realize that, we're misunderstanding something. But this is a tremendous opportunity that may never come back again, and that makes me sad.
Okay. Tim?
I'm still pretty much where I was before. It was presented to us as a gift. I don't feel that the city should be involved in it. We weren't involved in it in the beginning, and then all of a sudden it morphed into, it's no longer a gift of a building. It's a gift of $5 million, and it's presented as an investment. And for us to invest $750,000 for $5 million. The presentation keeps changing, and that concerns me. I think that we're also very generous for doing what they're doing. I don't like the fact of all the finances going through the city. I don't agree with that. I voted against that. I'm still against that.
Okay.
The rest of them voted for it, whatever. But I don't need to go through the whole horse and pony show.
We understand.
But for me, I don't see it as a gift anymore. It has changed.
Okay. Well put. Rusty, any other comments other than?
Yes, sir. I'm just disappointed.
Okay.
I shared this afternoon that I felt like we, maybe on the north side, missed a great opportunity. I didn't realize that the Coca-Cola building was going for so cheap. I think we should have jumped on that and would have had a great youth center for the north part of Dalhart. Would have been a great location. I thought we blew it. And I'm sorry, I think we're blowing this. But that's just my opinion. I just think we're walking away from a building that could have been very beneficial. I think we could have used it for kids from the north side, the Kelly Hill side, which is the east side, from the west side. And it would have been really convenient for the south side. But the reality is, I think we're missing a huge opportunity, and I believe it's gone away, and I'm sorry for that.
Okay.
So.
Yes, ma'am.
So my passion for this town is quality of life. My daughter too was up there sitting and she named off several generations that we are forgetting in this building. We don't have a plan. How are we going to pay for this? We
we talked about it in the very beginning. How are we going to make this work? How are we going to do this? And then that just kind of stopped. And then we're presented with, Kids Inc. coming in. And we figured out that probably wasn't going to work. But EDC had already said we can fund that. And that's great and fine and dandy. But then here we are, another $750,000. And I don't care if it's sales tax, property tax, it's tax. And current state, I'm not sure we're going to bring in $600,000 in sales tax this year. XIT's off. We have 3 businesses that have recently shut down. I realize that we have a lot of traffic that comes through here, but that's not the majority of where that comes from. I am grateful for what he has offered, but I also know we have to take care of their future. My daughter is the future of this town. I'm not going to be here forever, but I want her to continue to want to be here. And the other the other people, that's how you fill the jobs that we have in this town, is to make sure that they are taken care of just like their kids would be. My daughter's generation, they're not having kids, not a lot. They're not like the rest of us that just said, oh, we got to have kids. They're thinking it through. They're figuring it out. So with this building, we are picking and choosing which generation we're gonna do quality of life. And I realize we can add to this later, but doesn't that cost us money? Future. We got to think about the future. That's my deal. I think this could have been worked out if we'd all put our heads together, but that we had a group over here talking about it and a group over here talking about it, and then there was no communication as to how we pay for this in the future.
A business plan.
And a business plan.
Okay.
You gotta have a plan. And I will be happy to sit down and go, hey, let's do this. Let's figure this out. But
well,
again, we
tabled it in
tabling
case
it.
someone can make things happen, but at this point. So I need everyone who spoke. Any other comments about tabling this for now? Okay, I have a
Just
motion.
one thing I'd like to say. I heard people on this side that say, don't do it. I've heard people on this side. The most people I kept hearing was, work it out,
Fix it.
figure it out.
Yeah.
Figure it out.
Figure it out. And
I
I
had
think
more
we
people
just
call
didn't
me and
figure
tell me
it
to
out.
fix it.
I think we messed up. I think we didn't figure it out.
We didn't fix it fast enough. But, hey, I have a motion and a second to table the recommendation from the EDC. All in favor?
Aye.
Anyone opposed? I have 2 votes of 3 or 2?
No,
Okay to table it?
I'll table it.
Okay, all right. So I have 2 votes to oppose to tabling it. The rest of the council members say it's okay to table. That's the only other thing on our agenda. Is there comments, James, anything?
I have no
to deal with
comments.
That you need aware of? Okay, all right. Cotton's good, fire department good.
Emergency management, as you guys know, we're running pretty crazy on the positives. We talked, was it 7 last night at about 11 o'clock last night. Woke up to 4 more this morning. We just got another 6 in just a while ago. It's in our community, people. Wear your masks out there. We're trying to promote this. Helped the hospital. I participated in a video for them. For us to stop this, we're all going to have to participate. So.
Okay.
The governor's blaming the mayors and county judges.
That's it.
Because they're not enforcing the rules.
That's it.
His
So,
rules.
we can't give names, but I will tell you that this is community spread in places that we all go.
Yeah.
We need to be careful. Wear your mask.
Wear your mask. Wash your hands. Use hand sanitizer. In the business.
Not that hand.
Don't drink that.
Not that. I think we're going to serve that at the next party we have. Okay, guys. Thank you all for coming. I appreciate it. We need a motion to adjourn. Yes.
Make a motion, we adjourn.
Second.
Made and seconded to adjourn. All in favor?
Aye.
Cool.
Congratulations.
Are you sure?
You want our iPads?
Thank you.
Want our iPads?
No,